On the 20th of February 1945, just under 2 weeks after the start of the British-Canadian invasion of Germany, the men of the 3rd Battalion, the Irish Guards of the Guards Armoured Division, received orders to prepare for an operation the next day aimed at securing the Dutch hamlet of Vrij. Located 6 kilometres south of the Reichswald forest, Vrij consisted of no more than a few houses and was barely visible on wartime maps. However, in February of 1945, this small hamlet became a key point in the British advance, as its capture would not only open the way to the German town of Vrij, but it would also facilitate the operations taking place in nearby Gok. Detailing their preparations for the forthcoming attack, the War Diary of the 3rd Irish Guards states, "On the 20th of February, the commanding officer and intelligence officer were called to a brigade orders group at 1000 hours and informed that on the following day the battalion would attack and capture the area of Vrij and the bridge slightly to the north of it. The day was spent in tying up the artillery fire plan and arranging for supporting arms. Owing to the boggy nature of the ground and terrible state of roads, it was impossible to have tank support, and self-propelled guns, carriers, etc. were confined to the tracks. The battalion was to attack on 2 centre lines about 400 yards apart, left No. 1 Company followed by No. 3 Company, right No. 4 Company followed by No. 2 Company. H hour was to be 1300 hours on the 21st of February. As morning dawned on the 21st of February 1945, the 3rd Irish Guards handed over their positions in Hommersum to the 2nd Battalion, the Scots Guards, and moved up to their start line to the northwest of Vrij. Here, final checks were carried out until 1300, when a heavy artillery bombardment commenced, behind which the Irish Guards advanced on foot to secure their objectives. Out in front were No. 1 and No. 4 companies, whilst No. 2 and No. 3 companies, together with battalion headquarters, followed closely behind in reserve. For the first 2 kilometres, the British advance proceeded as planned, but it was as the forward troops approached the outskirts of Vrij that the situation spiralled out of control. First was the news that the battalion's universal carriers, which were at the heart of the unit's wireless communications, were unable to get forward due to the boggy terrain and German minefields. As a result, the 3rd Battalion was forced to rely solely on its No. 18 radio sets, most of which didn't work and thus left the Irish Guards with virtually no radio communications. Then, not long after, the progress of No. 1 and No. 4 companies came to an abrupt halt, as strong German resistance was encountered. The battalion war diary continues. No. 4 Company almost succeeded in reaching its objective when it was confronted by very heavy machine gun fire from both flanks. Unfortunately, it had inadvertently bypassed further opposition on the southern flank, which proceeded to engage No. 2 Company and battalion headquarters. No. 1 Company had in fact reached their objectives, but they had been very heavily opposed and driven back by enemy many times their number. With its advance having stalled, the headquarters of the 3rd Battalion ordered No. 4 Company to withdraw and dig in with No. 2 Company in the fields to the west of Vrij. At the same time, No. 1, which had lost over 50% of its fighting strength, was directed to consolidate its positions, whilst No. 3 Company took over the advance, with the intention of securing a small castle to the north of the hamlet. This, however, proved disastrous, and although the company got to within 20 metres of its objective, a fierce German counterattack came in and drove No. 3 Company away from the castle and into a nearby farmhouse. Here, the British troops became pinned down by heavy enemy fire from 3 sides, with No. 2 Company having to be rushed forward to extract the remnants of No. 3, an operation that was successfully carried out by late afternoon. On its return to British lines, No. 3 Company reported a strength of only 30 men of the original 120 it had started the day with. Among the many casualties was the company commanding officer Major Darby Kennedy, who was killed in action as he tried to storm the castle. With No. 3 Company having effectively ceased to exist, the headquarters of the 3rd Irish Guards was left with no choice but to abandon its attack on Vrij. Accordingly, at around 1600 on the 21st of February, the battalion began to withdraw back to Hommersum, a move that was completed by 2200 under the cover of smoke and artillery fire. The next day, the battalion was pulled back to the Dutch city of Nijmegen for a period of rest and reorganisation. For the 3rd Battalion, the Irish Guards, the attack on Vrij was its most costly battle of the war, with the unit sustaining 138 casualties over the course of an afternoon. Of this figure, 37 men were killed in action, including 2 company commanding officers, whilst 9 of the battalion's 12 platoon commanders became wounded. Today, many of those British soldiers who lost their lives on that fateful day in February of 1945 are laid peacefully to rest in the Millsbeek War Cemetery in the Netherlands. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe so that you never miss one of my future videos.